Egypt's prime minister claims a technical fault was the most likely cause for the Russian airliner crash in Sinai, dismissing claims of responsibility from Islamic State militants. Turkey heads to the polls in parliamentary elections for the second time in just 5 months as President Erdogan's party seeks victory in a tight race. And former U.S. President Bill Clinton says Israelis must decide if they stand for peace at the 20-year memorial for slain Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. Hello and welcome to I-24 News. I'm David Matlin here in the Jaffa Port of Israel. An investigation is underway after a Russian airliner crashed in the Sinai Peninsula, killing all 224 people on board. Egypt's prime minister said a technical fault was the most likely cause, dismissing claims from Islamic State militants that they were responsible. The plane's black box flight recorders have been found and sent for analysis.
We attempted to contact the flight through aviation sectors in Turkey, Greece and Russia after we lost connection with the plane. But all attempts failed. Later, we were told by Egypt that they had gotten in touch with the flight. Subsequently, they denied having said that. Taking into consideration that today is Egypt's day of rest, this is all the information we have at the moment. But now, I believe all people are working on the matter on the Egyptian side.
In I-24 News reporter Maya Margid sums up yesterday's tragic day in the Sinai.
There were no survivors. A Russian airline has crashed in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, killing all 224 people on board, including 17 children. The plane, operated by Russian airline Kogali Mavia, was flying from the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh to the Russian city of St. Petersburg when it went down shortly after takeoff. An Islamic State affiliate active in the region has claimed responsibility for downing the jet. But security experts say that IS does not have missiles capable of reaching an altitude of 31,000 feet, the altitude at which the Airbus first fell off the radar. Instead, Russian and Egyptian authorities say it likely crashed due to a technical fault.
What will determine what happened is the analysis of the data in the black box. However, up until this point, there are no indications that anything out of the ordinary happened on this aircraft. All we can say is that the crash was due to technical problems, and the team of experts are the ones who will be able to prove or deny this.
Ambulances rushed to the site of the crash, described as, quote, a tragic scene by one official, who said victims were still strapped to their seats. Relatives anxiously awaited news of the fate of their loved ones in St. Petersburg Airport, as details of the tragedy began to emerge.
Well, there is hope. Hope is the last thing to die. I'm a realist. I understand. I am hoping. I will hope until the last moment.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a full investigation into the deadly crash and declared Sunday a national day of mourning.
At least 12 people were killed and 10 injured when Islamic extremists attacked a hotel in the Somali capital Mogadishu. A website associated with al-Shabaab claimed responsibility, saying that fighters from the al-Qaeda-linked group had infiltrated the hotel after an explosion. The attack started at dawn when a suicide bomber detonated a car bomb at the gate of the hotel, and then gunmen on foot opened fire inside. Now, Turkey is getting set for a crucial election today amid consistent violence between security forces and Kurdish rebels. The country is headed for its second parliamentary election in just 5 months. The last time, President Tayyip Erdogan's party lost its majority for the first time in 13 years. Since then, there's been political chaos, with 4 rival parties failing to form a ruling coalition and at least 2 major bombings blamed on the Islamic State.
This is an election that will secure the stability and trust, and I want stability to win in this country. I want trust, unity and solidarity to win. I want Turkey to win.
We lost hundreds of our friends. Can there be a bigger obstacle than this? Our colleagues have died. We're losing more still with suicide bombers, detentions, arrests. Even this morning, our ballot box council members and some of our ballot box council presidents were taken into custody. In Turkey, fair elections never happen. We wish they did. We took the dictator down despite everything, and tomorrow we will show him how strong the power of the people is.
Well, the United States has made further comments defending the decision to send special forces to Syria and announced stepped-up support for the Syrian opposition with a pledge of nearly $100 million in additional aid. Here's more from the I-24 News Desk.
The decision to deploy U.S. Special Forces to Syria will focus solely on fighting the Islamic State group. This is what Secretary of State John Kerry said Saturday, just as the newly formed rebel group launched an offensive for the first time against IS in northeastern Syria.
It is not a decision to enter into Syria's civil war. It is not an action or a choice focused on Assad. It is focused exclusively on Daesh.
The White House's decision to send dozens of troops marks a significant policy shift for Obama, who has long resisted sending soldiers to Syria. For its part, Saudi Arabia reiterated that there will be no peace in the war-torn country until President Bashar al-Assad leaves.
Establish a new Syria in which Bashar al-Assad has absolutely no role. This is the first part of our policy. The second part of our policy has to do with a Syria in which no foreign forces exist, in particular Iranian forces. And until that is achieved, I think the Syrian crisis will continue.
Kerry and Jubair's statements came a day after 17 countries, the European Union, and the United Nations met in Vienna in a bid to end Syria's civil war. But the meeting focused less on Assad's fate and more on restarting peace talks, all in the hopes of ending a years-long war that has left 250,000 people dead.
Well, in other news, over 100,000 people gathered in Tel Aviv on Saturday night for the 20th memorial ceremony for assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, shot by a Jewish extremist in the same city square. Danny Swibel has the story.
Tens of thousands of people came out to Tel Aviv's Rabin Square Saturday night to mark the 20th anniversary of the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was killed in 1995 by an ultra-nationalist Israeli Jew who opposed his interim peace talks with the Palestinians. Various members of the Israeli community took part in the commemoration, as well as former U.S. President Bill Clinton. Broker of the 1993 Oslo interim peace talks between Rabin and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, Clinton called on Israelis to preserve Rabin's call for peace.
Next step will be determined by whether you decide that Yitzhak Rabin was right, that you have to share the future with your neighbors, that you have to give their children a chance too, that you have to stand for peace, that the risk for peace are not as severe as the risk of walking away from it.
Rabin's murder stunned Israelis as well as the international community that had pinned its hopes on peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians bearing fruit. U.S. President Barack Obama delivered a speech to the crowd on a giant screen, reminding Israelis what was at stake in relations with the Palestinians.
Like a true statesman, he was willing to exhaust every opening, every possibility in pursuit of peace. In these difficult days, for Israelis, for Palestinians, and for the region, Yitzhak's life, his dream, inspire us still.
The commemoration events took place this week as Israel was facing one of the worst waves of Palestinian violence in decades, fueled in part by tensions over a Jerusalem holy site sacred to Muslims and Jews. The last round of negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians collapsed in 2014, with nothing to speak of on the horizon.
And the Rugby World Cup ended with New Zealand beating Australia, earning a record third Webb Ellis Cup title. Well, the All Blacks won 34-17 in England, becoming the first to ever win back-to-back World Cups. The All Blacks have lost just 3 times in 54 matches since their triumph 4 years ago. And the day after the match, the fans in New Zealand have a lot to celebrate.
I knew as soon as he struck it that I was going over, man. Go All Blacks! What a win!
It's always All Blacks, always All Blacks. So yeah, and total respect for what they do, the hard work they put in, their families, giving up time for them to be over there.
It was brilliant. I'm really proud of all the boys. They pulled together at the end, and just Richie, good to see him off like that. Really proud, really stoked about it. Dan played a flawless game, which is good. All the boys came together at the end, and they're really proud of them.
That no new try.
Go New Zealand! Go New Zealand!
That's all for our top stories here this hour at I-24 News. I'm David Matlin in the Jaffa Port of Israel. You can stay with us, though, at our Facebook, Twitter, and, of course, our website, i24news.tv. From all of us here, thanks for joining us.